It's finally happened.
I hate to interrupt you, Dermot, but we have certain reason to do so because Manchester United have sacked their manager, Erik Ten Hag. A statement has just appeared on the club.
The most unsurprisingly surprising news of the season so far. Manchester United has finally decided to sack Erik Ten Hag. But the real question is, why is it just happening now? And why did it take so long to fire him? Under Erik Ten Hag, Manchester United were as confusing as the football they played. After the 2-1 defeat to West Ham, the United board decided they'd seen enough and that it was time to let Ten Hag leave. And that's when they announced the decision they'd relieve him of his duties as head coach. Truth is, guys, Ten Hag's sacking has been coming for a long time, and there are a lot of reasons why. For starters, he lost way too many games. In the 85 Premier League games he took over as head coach, Ten Hag lost 27, a loss rate of 31.8%, which is the second worst loss rate in the club's history since post-Alex Ferguson. It weren't just the defeats alone, but the nature of the defeats as well. Out of those 27 losses, there was a 4-0 loss to Crystal Palace, a 4-0 loss to Brentford, lost 7-0 at Anfield to Liverpool, and lost 6-3 to Manchester City at Old Trafford. This season, they've already lost 3-0 twice to both Liverpool and Tottenham at Old Trafford. For a team like Manchester United, this is alarming. True, some of the defeats have been very hard to take in, like the 2-1 loss to West Ham after a controversial penalty call. But even with that, some of the defeats have also been incredible. Cole Palmer's winner against United last season condemned the team to a 4-3 defeat at Stamford Bridge. And what's interesting about this one is that United was actually leading this game in the 99th minute, and still lost in the space of a minute later. In the end, you can't keep making excuses for the way they've been playing, and losing this many games was always going to cost him the job. United under Ten Hag also found it hard to score goals. It gets worse when you look at just how much they've spent in the attacking aspect under him. £36 million for Joshua Zirkzee, £75 million for Rasmus Højlund, £60 million for Mason Mount, £85 million for Antony. All these names put up, and between them, they've only 2 league goals all season. Under the days of Sir Alex, scoring goals had never been a problem. You think of strikers like Ruud van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo, Rooney and Chicharito. All these were players who consistently bagged the goals for United. And the truth is, the same can't be said about Ten Hag's system. All of these names mentioned here, none of these players had a proven track record of scoring goals before joining the club. And for a team like United, this should have been the priority. On one part, it's easy to understand Ten Hag's philosophy of wanting to build with young players, and we'll get to that soon. But in the aspect of scoring goals this season, and honestly, all through Ten Hag's tenure, United look short. When you're not scoring goals like United weren't under Ten Hag, it's slightly better if the team can be tight at the back. This was also a problem with Ten Hag at the club. Conceding shabby goals like that was always going to be a problem. According to data from Opta, since January 2024, United has created chances worth 42.4 in the XG department, which is only enough to rank them 8th in the Premier League. But it gets worse. Creating the chances is one thing, and finishing them off is another. Since Cristiano Ronaldo back in the 2021-22 season, no Manchester United centre-forward has finished a season with more than 15 goals. Marcus Rashford in the 2022-23 season played predominantly down the left wing and could make an argument with this, but then again, the bulk of the goal scoring wasn't supposed to be on him. No one else shared it. Manchester United in attack became so predictable. When Bruno Fernandes, the club creator-in-chief, wasn't creating chances, there was no one else who could step up in that regard. When Marcus Rashford wasn't scoring goals, didn't seem like anyone else could step up for United. Going back to the 2022-23 season, the best United were under Ten Hag. They still struggled to score goals. Yeah, they definitely finished with the most clean sheets in the league, but the numbers shown were alarming. 43 goals conceded, 58 goals scored. In terms of goals scored amongst teams in the top 8 that season, only Aston Villa scored less. Ultimately, teams started finding them out. And once that defensive resilience they kind of had in the 2022-23 season was gone, they became easy to beat and in turn shipped in more than they could score. Still, on the aspect of goals, there's another angle where Erik Ten Hag failed as United's head coach. Coming into his first season at the club, he made his mission clear.
An era can come to an end.
There was a lot of bold talk from the beginning, which showed a lot about the man. He was ready to make bold calls, but he did one and got it wrong. Cristiano Ronaldo was the club's top scorer in the season before Ten Hag, and as he's shown all through his career, he can score goals provided the service is there. Erik Ten Hag came into the United team with a vision to build a young team that could play the way he wanted and with his style, which wasn't a bad thing, but his relationship with players was always called into question. The saga with Cristiano Ronaldo at the beginning was a big one. Ronaldo came out in the interview with Piers Morgan to state he couldn't respect Ten Hag, and that's because he didn't feel like Ten Hag respected him in turn. What exactly happened? You'll find out soon enough, but first, you're watching this and still haven't subscribed to Pitch Hub yet, right? Click that button below to get the latest updates on the channel. Now, Ronaldo and Ten Hag's relationship became so bad that in the end, Ronaldo was forced out of the team. Now, this would have been relatively okay if it was a one-off thing. Maybe he was just trying to pass a point. But then, it happened again. He and Jadon Sancho fell out. The same thing with him and David De Gea. Ten Hag's management skills with players were a problem. He struggled to coach Nig reputation players and ultimately failed to get the best out of them. In this regard, Ten Hag decided to take a page out of the old United playbook. But I guess he didn't finish reading the whole thing. He decided to pull off a Sir Alex Ferguson move from 1992, but put his faith in kids. Under Ten Hag, youngsters featured a lot in United's team. The likes of Alexandre Garnacho, Kobe Mainoo, and even the signings he brought in, Rasmus Højlund, Joshua Zirkzee and Antony. All these guys were under the age of 23 with little to no proven track records. Now, this wouldn't have been a bad thing, except Ten Hag went about it the wrong way. Remember United's class of 1992? Well, they had a powerful force in the dressing room to lead them. Erik Cantona. You look at the current players in the United team, and no one stands out as a natural leader in the team. Bruno Fernandes is an excellent player, but he isn't a leader, and already fact, feels like there's a lot more pressure on him every time he puts on the United armband, and Ten Hag never really fixed this. When you've spent as much as he has, it immediately demands results. £117 million on 21 players across the 5 transfer windows Ten Hag has been in charge of the club. £617 million, that's over £500 million on players, and no one stands out as a success story so far. Ten Hag did the bulk of his shopping based on players he'd worked with at Ajax. Andre Onana, Antony, Matthijs de Ligt, Nusa Mazraoui, Lisandro Martinez, all these guys played under Ten Hag at Ajax. And it was like he was trying to build a replica of what he had in the Eredivisie in the Premier League, and it failed. Still, on the aspect of transfers, it seemed like Ten Hag was good at identifying an area the team was lacking, but then went out to spend on the wrong recruitment. When he signed Casemiro, it seemed like a good deal. Under the previous managers Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ralf Rangnick, the problem was that United lacked a holding midfield at the base. Casemiro was the guy to fix that problem, or more like should have been. Down to the present day, he looks like a liability every time he plays. Then they went out and spent on this guy, Manuel Ugarte, £50.8 million from PSG. But from the few times he's appeared in a United kit so far, it's a question as to why United paid that much for him in the first place. He looks miles off it. Taking a look at the performance on the pitch, Erik Ten Hag didn't do as well either. In fact, he struggled. Think about it. Managers like Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta all have recognisable team structures and how they want to play. City wants to keep the ball and dominate teams. Arsenal wants to play quick, expansive football. With Manchester United, it's hard to really point out what Ten Hag's system of play is. And that's because, in all honesty, it don't exist. It's unrecognisable. In the 2024-25 season, United have looked so open. It's almost as if there's been no communication between defence, midfield and attack. Everyone just does their own thing, hoping to get a result.
Gary Neville joins us from the gantry now. Gary, on the final whistle, you described the performance as disgusting.
Gary Neville wasn't lying. Any half-decent team can actually take a pop at United home and away and expect to come out with a result. On Ten Hag's part, didn't feel like he was ready to admit what was going on. Honestly, you don't even need to be a United fan to know how defensive he'd been in the vast majority of his press conferences. Often when he was asked about his team's performances, Ten Hag's response was the same. They'd won 2 trophies. In a cup competition, as we've seen in the past, anyone can get lucky. Any team can get lucky. You can't use the performances from 2 cup competitions to judge league seasons that last 9 months, and that's when Ten Hag's mistake came from. Ultimately, Ten Hag lost the confidence of the board, and the new owners didn't see enough. When it became clear that the Sir Jim Ratcliffe takeover was in full swing, the speculation surrounding Ten Hag increased. But in the end, the board initially gave him the chance to continue, and they backed him. However, the performance didn't improve. This season, United have had their worst start to a league season since the season under Ten Hag in 2022-23. They've taken the bar and setting it even lower. Looking back at his time as United manager, it weren't all bad. To be fair, he did have the success of Wembley on 2 different occasions, and if anything, has introduced a crop of young talent who could very well become the future of the club for years to come. In the end, Ten Hag couldn't cut it at United. The board, owners and fans trusted the process for 2.5 years, and there was no real signs of progression to make either party want to continue anymore. The Premier League demands immediate results, and Ten Hag couldn't bring that. Still looking at that transfer record again, and spending over £500 million with very little to show for it is just sad. Even gets worse when you realise his record signing is one of the most memed players in the game right now. Antony. No one respects him. Want to find out why? Well, it's all in the next video.